Been going through this is our third talk in this series of Jesus' miracle. In New Thought, which is what this is, New Thought religious science, we believe that Jesus was the master teacher. We call him the way shower. Not the great exception, but the great example. The great example. We do not deny the divinity of Jesus. But we do proclaim that there is that same divinity within each and every one of us. We all have that God spark alive within each and every one of us. And we do not deny that Jesus was the Son of God. But we know that all the sons and daughters of God, of the Most High, are right here and are everywhere. This same God self is alive within us if we but realize it. And so that's what this whole month has been about. We do not deny the kingdom of heaven that was revealed through Jesus, but say that the kingdom of heaven was also revealed and is being revealed by you and by me, each of us, all of us, every one of us. This month we're looking at creating miracles. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
I think so. I just love the word miracles. In God's divine mind, there are no miracles. It's all natural, but I love to say miracles are taking place in my life. It's one of my great affirmations, and only good is occurring. So this month we're looking at creating those miracles, and the profound lesson on how to do that Jesus, the master teacher, the way shower, the great example, gave us. He gave us this miracle in the loaves of fish, in the miracle of the loaves and fish, as distilled and interpreted by a book that I am reading, Dr. Todd Michael. His book is called The 12 Conditions of a Miracle. So we've been going over those conditions, which I'm calling states of consciousness. Dr. Michael was an emergency room medical doctor for many, many years. And so his experience with divine intervention then took place as he was dealing with people, and he got a whole different way of looking at life. And he went on this exploration of his, this concept of miracles, and wound up discovering a spectacular blueprint, if you will, a blueprint for setting up these conditions for us to follow, to create miracles in our lives. By studying, he wrote the book on this one miracle of Jesus, the loaves and fish. So not only did Jesus do this once, but he did it twice. He did this miracle twice. And it's recorded, it's the only miracle that's recorded in all four Gospels. So in this miracle, Jesus was teaching us how to use the power that is in our own soul. We all have soul power. We talked about soul power last month, soul power. But through this series of 12 conditions, or 12 states of consciousness, we are exploring those states of consciousness to learn that life really is all about consciousness. Consciousness. What we think, what we feel, what we value, all we believe, everything that makes up who we are is our consciousness. So the first four steps that we went through real quickly, the first step was emptiness, which is the desert, was explained in that miracle, but is going into meditation, so setting ourselves up in a meditative state every day to create an emptiness so that the good can flow through us. Alignment with divine love through compassion, and compassion is love in action. Asking in a clear, concise way so the law of attraction can bring forth what you are asking for in your lives. And maximizing. We maximize through showing gratitude for what we already have. That expands it, and that law of attraction that Rita spoke of in her reading, it activates that law of attraction. We must bring it forth into our experience through the frequency of our vibration. So today we're going to just jump right into the conditions or states of consciousness of 5, 6, and 7. And so the first one, condition 5, is about giving. Giving. So conditions 1 through 4 were in preparation. We're in preparation to get things moving. So in condition 5, we really start to activate. We start to really move this substance that we call the law, this thing that brings forth into our experience what we desire. So 5, it really gets it going. It gets it going. The flow begins with this sincere gift of number 5, giving. According to the account given in the book of John, Andrews, one of the disciples, said to Jesus, "There is a small boy here and has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and he is offering to give them to us." This is all part of that same passage. Now we can assume that this little boy was just as hungry as everyone else. There were 5,000 people, they were all hungry. They came for a healing, but they were hungry now. Now they were hungry. So he offered what he had to the disciples. With the innocence and trust of a child, he gave what he had, and he gave it freely. So he was setting up the condition of flow. I wish John Werblers was here, because it is all about the flow. He talks about that, the flow. So you're setting up the flow. You can't activate it until you start to move into this place of giving. So with the little boy's gift, the disciples passed this food along to Jesus, who kept things moving by distributing it to everybody who was present. So you see how the flow was, you have to begin with a gift. It was starting to be, it was activated. And so the 5th condition or state of consciousness is giving. The act of giving relieves congestion. It relieves blocks. When we give from our heart. It relieves congestion and stimulates the flow and increase of resources. There's no stagnation there. There's no blocks there. And so in Luke chapter 6, verse 38, we read, "Whatever measure you use in giving, large or small, it will be used to measure what is given back to you." So we have that whole cause and effect. It's always working. Whether we're conscious of how we're using it or not, it is always working. Ernest Holmes wrote in the Science of Mind book, "When the law of circulation is retarded, stagnation results. It is only as we allow the divine current or flow through us, in and out, that we really express life. The law of giving and receiving is definite. Emerson tells us to beware of holding too much good in our hands." It's a flow. It's the cycle of life again. And then we have Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity. He wrote in Prosperity, "See yourselves as the steward of God handing out his inexhaustible supplies." Inexhaustible. There's no limit to the good of God. Well, he didn't write that, I said that. So we'll go back to Fillmore. "In this manner, you are setting into action mental and spiritual forces that eventually bring large results into visibility. Be happy in your giving. God loves a cheerful giver, because his mind and heart are open to the flow of the purest substance of being that balances all things." And so if we think about our hands, this is why I love the synchronicity of spirit, what Rita said in her prayer about the open hand. If your hand is open, you are ready to give and you are ready to receive. But if you close and make a clenched fist, you can't receive. You're not giving and you cannot receive. So we open our hands to receive the good. It's a conscious action that we take, consciously. When we give, We are being who we really are because we belong to a good of God, a God that we believe in, this divine energy that is always giving of itself to life. It creates all life. It is within all life, and so it's always giving. That's why our thoughts produce the things. So, Holmes wrote again, the love of God is the divine givingness, the eternal outpouring of spirit through its creation. Its creation. Its creation, that is us. That's who we are. We are creations of this divine goodness, because we believe in a God of good, which makes me feel really happy. We believe in a God of good, so we allow ourselves to be open, and we're in alignment with our own nature. We're coming from that divine nature. So it is inherent in each and every one of us to give and receive. That's the flow. It's when we're not in that flow that things seem blocked up in our life. So now we're going to move into the conditions behind the conditions of giving, if you will. So focus when you are giving, no matter what it is, a kind word, smile, whatever it is. Focus on the feeling behind the giving. The feeling of what is moving you forward to give. Because the mere act of giving has power, but the intent behind the gift, that's the real power. That's where the real power is. That's the feeling state that's creating more of that good to come back to us. As always, the conditions of a miracle work at the level of our consciousness. The generosity and love motivating you are what ultimately stimulates the flow. So just think of your life being in the flow. It feels so much better than being stuck, than being stagnated, as we sometimes can feel. I'm in the flow. It feels so good. The feelings of love and satisfaction and joy that result from giving activate this law of attraction, thereby bringing into our lives experiences that promote those very feelings of love, of joy, of peace and satisfaction. And there's a simple test you can use to evaluate whether you are setting up this condition for a miracle through your giving. You will know that a gift is capable of generating miraculous results if the act of giving, the gift itself, is given freely. If we give it without attachments, without expecting something back in return. I even give gifts and do not expect anything back in return. It's the joy of giving. See, that's the feeling behind it. The joy of giving the gift. Because how many times have you given a gift and you haven't gotten that thank you card? And then you don't feel good. So you bought the gift, you gave the gift, you felt great, and then you waited. You waited to hear the thank you. Forget about the thank you. You don't need it. It's the act of giving. You're giving to yourself through that giving. No strings attached. And that is just it. No strings are attached. The true gift is given freely and released freely. The kind of giving that facilitates miracles involves a major shift sometimes in our consciousness, in the way we think. It involves a shift. Completely forget about the reactions of the recipient. And know that when you are giving, you are a channel for the universe to express through. So I would rather have my good come from the universal law, that universal good, than through one channel, one human being. So it's just shifting our consciousness when we are giving. This is a big part of the 12 conditions of a miracle, that giving. Finally, give consciously and thoughtfully. Think about what you're doing when you give the gift. Make it a sacred act. Make it bless it, whatever it is, bless it. Now, condition number 6. We're on to 6. And this one is grounding. It's all about grounding. So in both occasions, we go back to that whole story, that miracle of Jesus with the loaves of bread and the fish. So in both occasions, when Jesus fed large numbers of people by expanding small amounts of food into large amounts of food, he told everybody to sit down on the ground or on the grass, depending on which of the four Gospels that you read this in. So digging into the original Greek text, as Dr. Michael Todd did, it's an amazing little book, he reveals another meaning for that passage of sitting on the grass or sitting on the ground. The Greek word, which I'm not going to even try to pronounce, but the Greek words for sit down on the grass actually mean to recline or lay back in the garden. To recline or lay back in the garden. And you might think it's an odd thing to say that to people who are in the desert, because there is no grass in the desert. There's no garden in the desert. It doesn't really make sense. So there must be a deeper metaphoric interpretation of this entire, because there's a whole course of study in the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible that is so fascinating, so fascinating. So Michael writes this then. This is his metaphysical interpretation. It turns out that the deeper level isn't difficult to uncover. The use of the word garden is very reminiscent of the Garden of Eden. Indeed, exploring this metaphor yields a wealth of pertinent metaphysical information, which is completely consistent with the conditions of a miracle. So what does all of that really mean? Well, if you consider the story of the Garden of Eden and let it serve as a metaphor for the development of human consciousness. So that's what we are doing. We are developing human consciousness. The original natural state of human beings is that of a child. Truly, a child has not yet eaten unto that tree of knowledge. As a result, the child, and think of a child that you might know, that child is wholly present in the now moment. They don't know anything about the future. They don't know anything about the past. You ever tell a 2-year-old or 1.5-year-old, oh, well, we're going to do that tomorrow? They have no clue what you're even speaking about. It's now. Right here, right now. When you talk to the kids tomorrow? Now. So the child has not yet been taught this whole concept, and the child feels no shame. No shame. No, it could be completely naked and feels absolutely natural, because that is where we came in natural. We were natural beings. So all of these things we feel as adults. This is the shame and all of that stuff we have learned through our conditions, through our experiences. We've learned all this. So what this is saying, this whole grounding thing, is then being just as she in the garden of the present was. A child is perfectly grounded to receive the flow. People just give children things. You ever see that? They want something and they usually get it. They're in the flow. They are in the flow. As a result, they don't have lack and limitations. They don't have them at their very young age. And this is how each and every one of us came in, without any concept of lack or limitation. We learned that as we went along. So to lie back in the garden then is to relax and return to that natural childlike state of mind for all of us. And Holmes wrote about this in his Science of Mind. He said, how we long for the return, think of this, how we long for the return of that simple trust in life which children have. In their minds, there are no doubts. They have not yet been told that they are sinners, destitute of divine guidance and spiritual life. The life of a child is lived in natural goodness. We must return to the way we came, as little children who know that life is good and can be trusted. The trust and innocence of a young child. That's why we're in classes, to learn to go backwards. Really, to clear ourselves of all that lack and limitation and return to that natural childlike state of wonder and awe and trust. Big word, trust. So activating the condition or the consciousness of grounding by staying in the present moment as much as possible. Staying in the now moment. The past and the future do not exist. They really don't. There's only this moment right here, right now, where we're creating. That's all that exists. The rest is figments of our imagination. Since the present is the only real place you can ever be. You can't be in the future. You can't be in the past. You can only be present in this now moment. And it's always the now moment. So you might as well pull yourself back when you're going to worry about the future or about sadness over the past. Pull yourself, ground yourself. Know that right here, right now, this is the only moment that exists. Always. That's how we get in the flow. In addition, the present is the only place that you can really act from. It is the sound platform from which you can do real things. This is where you create to advance your dreams. And as you go through your day, return to the present moment. It's a spiritual practice, and it's very, very powerful, because remember, what we're doing is we are creating our next experience. So being conscious of being in the now and what we're thinking in this now moment, that's what's creating our next experience anyway. So finally for today, we go to condition number 7. Seeing. The miracle condition is described in the passage as this. And he ordered the people to sit down on the ground. That was condition number 6. And he took 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and he looked up to heaven. So condition 7 is activated by this passage. He looked up to heaven. But this passage has a deeper meaning than just a physical act of looking up. The act of looking up to heaven is described by 2 original Greek words. Again, to look and to recover sight. To look and to recover sight. So this whole idea of looking up into heaven is more about looking to the source of all of our good. Looking, seeing, with our mind's eye, that God is the source and supply of all the good we could ever want, desire, or need in this life, if we but believe it and trust in it. So looking up to heaven can be described as recovering our elevated sight, our elevated thinking. Turn away from the condition and focus on our attention to the source. Even as we're going through stuff that's like hard. We all going to go through hard things in life. There's no deluding ourselves that we're not. We are. But at the same time, remaining centered, and this is really a discipline, but it's one worth pursuing, centered and aligned and anchored and grounded and rooted in the belief that there is a present for good and that it's within me. And I know that this is a giving universe. Remember, the universe conspires for our good. These are all the words I play and thoughts and beliefs that I play in my mind when going through all different challenging situations in my life. I keep returning. Wait a second. Okay. I have an anxiety, but God is my source. God is my source because what? The anxiety passes, yes? Yeah, we don't live totally every single second. If we do, then we're in a lot of trouble. In that anxiety, we want to keep bringing the higher good of God into our thinking, our feeling. Reshape your consciousness. So we're reshaping our consciousness. Reshape your reality. Or in the words of Ernest Holmes, change your thinking, change your life. Change your feeling, change your life. So the 7th condition or state of consciousness of a miracle, because we're building up to this miracle, is established by restoring the vision, by seeing the successful fulfillment of that which you desire as already taking place. As Mary Morrissey says in our Prosperity Plus class, come from the vision, not trying to get to it, trying to get to it. Ever notice when you keep trying to get to something, you're always, for the rest of your life, trying to get to something? Come from that feeling state of already being there. That's the place you want to create from. That's the place where all those miracles take place. And I'm going to close with this story because it's a short story, but it really is fits in pretty well here. It's a story about Admiral James Stockdale, and he was the highest ranking United States military officer in the Hanoi Hilton prisoner of war camp during the height of the Vietnam War. Tortured over 20 times during his 8-year imprisonment from 1965 to 1973, Stockdale lived out the war without any prisoner's rights, no set release date, had no idea he was even going to get out or live, and no certainty as whether he would survive and see his family again. How did he deal? How did he deal through with all of this through those 8 years? So after his release, he was interviewed, and this is what he said: "I never lost my faith. I never doubted that I would get out. I always believed I would." So he clearly saw in mind, he came from the vision, he clearly saw his release. Just as Jesus, when he was feeding these people, just knew that there was more than enough for everyone. There is more than enough. So now we have 7, halfway through, over half of our conditions or states of consciousness to become miracle workers. And so here's the quick, and at the last Sunday service of this September, I'm going to give you in your bulletin, so a note to self, write this and print it up on the computer and have a copy. I'm going to give you all 12 of these conditions, because think of a place or something that you want to create in your life. That's what we've been encouraging everybody to do from the first Sunday that I began this series. Think of something you want to create in your life. That's what I want this to be, really practical. And so I want you to apply it to something you want to really create in your life. And see how all 12 together help you really go into that place of knowing that you not only can create whatever you want, you deserve it. Everybody deserves all the good they can take in their lives. So here, not go on forever here, but here are the what we spoke about already. This is part of the conditions of a miracle. Emptiness, remember, meditation, alignment with divine love, asking in a clear, concise way, maximizing, being grateful for what we already have, and then today we added giving, grounding, and seeing. So apply these. Apply all 7 that we have now, if you didn't write them down. But apply all 7 to what you want to desire and begin to start achieving your highest dreams. Don't wait. Just allow that demonstration of a miracle to come forth in your life. Believing we can create anything we truly desire. That's the faith of a child. That's the trust of a child that we're all returning to. So I think it's now the time for all of us to become miracle workers. Let's begin now.